Yes, there are more parts. I promise I'm not trying to drag this out. I promise. I'm trying to tell as much of the story as I can, as quickly as I can, in longer parts. That way there's not 5,000. It's just a really long story. So again, I'm trying my hardest. Uploads come as I can because I have 3 jobs and 3 kids, okay? So here I am sitting across the table from Todd. Todd shows me the evidence of why exactly my husband is guilty. And it starts to click with me like, holy shit. When he says he's been trying to frame you, I was like, oh my God. So he actually had talked to an investigator after this car was stolen. This is the car that was in Arizona that I told you guys about. That car was in Arizona when I married him, okay? He said that he had had that car for a while. Well, that car, he actually ended up selling to somebody else with my name on the title, okay? So he somehow got my name on the title, sold the car to somebody else. When they went to go register the car with the DMV, it popped up stolen. They try to contact me. They contact him, and they say, hey, so, like, what exactly is happening here? Because the lady says that my husband sold it to her, but my name's on the title. And they're like, who is this lady? He's like, oh, that's my wife. That's her car. She just wasn't here to, like, sign anything. And they're like, oh, but you had the car? And he's like, yeah, I had the car. And so then they end up charging him with grand theft auto. But he tried to frame me for that. And I was like, what the hell? He was also collecting, welfare, and like cash benefits in my name, saying that I couldn't work. So I had worked for a long time, and he let me go out and work, and he would drop me off and he'd pick me up. And then all of a sudden he decided I wasn't allowed to work anymore because I was making relationships with people. So he made my ass stay at home. I begged constantly to go to work. Well, he had forged doctor's notes saying that I was not able to work, therefore I had to get on welfare. So I literally I don't know how he did it. Like, the welfare people ended up coming to my house, like, the next day to, like, interrogate me on, like, how I got welfare. I'm like, I don't fucking know how I got welfare. I don't know why I'm on welfare. I was like, I don't know. Like, I know that, like, we went to try to go get health insurance because he didn't have health insurance. And that's what I know. And, like, this whole, like, collecting cash, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Those signatures are not my signatures. That stuff is not my, like, what are you talking about? And I was like, and they're like, well, you're going to have to pay it back. Ma'am, what? I have to pay back? This is fraud. He literally defrauded everybody. Like, what do you mean I have to pay it back? Anyway, that was a whole nother thing. So Todd then says, Andre, I want you to understand something. You are in trouble. And I was like, I don't know what I did wrong. And he's like, no, Carl is making phone calls while he's in jail. We listened to everything. And I was like, yeah, I've seen that on TV. And he was like, right. He's like, so he's talking to people, and he's like, and we can't know for sure, but you and the kids are not safe. And I need you to get your kids, and I need you to get out. I know that you think you're there because you want to be, and I know that you think you should stay there. He's like, but listen to me now. You are not safe. You are not safe. And I was like, oh my God. And he's like, I want to talk to the leader of your church. Can you please get me in contact with them? Because he knew my church was helping me. Because I told him, Todd, I don't have anybody. Like, where am I supposed to go? I don't have $5. And he was like, the church is going to get you out. So he wanted the contact information of my bishop. I gave that to him. I walked out of there in complete shock. I still had his 16-year-old with me. And I was like, I can't take this kid. If we end up escaping, I can't take somebody's kid that's not mine with me. So I call my mother-in-law and I say, hey, I need to send him to you because I don't think he's doing well with me. She's like, bet, get him on. I will buy the bus ticket. You have him on the bus tomorrow morning. I was like, okay. So I tell him, get your stuff, get out. And I don't want to seem heartless. Get your stuff and get out, guys. He was very abusive to me. This kid was very abusive to me because his dad trained him as his protege. And so if my husband ever left the house, like, this kid would record me. And he was very abusive. And, like, when his dad would do horrible things to me, he would watch and, like, cackle. Like, he basically raised a mini him. And I feel bad for him because that's all he ever knew. But I couldn't handle keeping somebody who was abusive and having them around my kids. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to pack my stuff. So I don't even know, like, what I'm thinking. I'm just trying to think of, like, next steps. So I get to the house, tell him to pack his stuff. And then I'm like, I have to start packing our stuff. And I know that my husband had brought down a suitcase when he bailed out of California and he was in Las Vegas. And so when he got back to Las Vegas, he'd brought a suitcase down and put it by his side of the closet. I didn't think anything of it. So I was like, well, there's a suitcase. So I go and I open this suitcase, y'all. When I open this suitcase, there's a huge hunting. There's handcuffs, rope, and a plastic trash bags. And the same voice that had talked to me, that told me to check the scanner, like the same, like, in my church we call it the spirit, who says, it's like your inner self who tells you stuff. The same voice that had told me to check the scanner told me, this was for you. And I was like, he was actually going to unalive me. Like, it was a lot. And so I was like, I just threw that stuff to the side and I start packing. And I'm like, I don't even know where I'm going. I don't know when I'm going. I don't know what's happening. My bishop contacts me and says, we can't send you to Utah. We're getting you out of here. And at this point, it had broke all over the news. So it was on every news station, in the newspaper. It was online. I mean, everybody fucking knew what he had done. His face was plastered everywhere. They were making an example out of him. And I was like, this is horrendous. And so we were high profile. Everyone knew what was happening. And he was dangerous. My church is like, we're fucked. So they're trying to get me out. They're like, can you think of anywhere that you might be able to go? And I was like, well, I think I might know somebody who's in North Carolina. And they were like, okay, so you might know somebody there. I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't like know them, but I know they live in North Carolina. And they were like, that works for us. Like, tell us the name of the town. And so I told them, they're like, perfect. They're like, we're calling the bishop over there. And I was like, okay. And they were like, you're leaving 2 days. And I was like, that's not enough time. Like, and they were like, that's plenty of time. And I was like, well, how do I pack everything? And they're like, pack what? You each get a suitcase. You pack your suitcase. And we're putting you on a plane with a prepaid card, okay? And you are never coming back here. So just pack, like, clothes if you need them, okay? And I was like, how do I tell my kids, like, you have to leave everything behind? Like, how do I tell these kids that, like, your life is no more? And it was just really hard. So I didn't want his son to know that I was, like, packing and getting ready to leave. So I just played it cool. We got his son on the bus the next day. I said goodbye. And then I was like, I have these dogs. I have 2 dogs who were my babies. Like, I loved those dogs, like, to, like, the moon and back. They were my babies, and so I couldn't take them. I had asked if I could take the dogs. They said absolutely not. And I was like, okay, I have to find a safe place for them. So I contacted a local shelter in Las Vegas, and I contacted the person who ran it, and they actually run a thrift store along with, like, to, like, support the shelter, and I had heard really good things about their rescue. And I contact her. I say, I have 2 dogs. I cannot take them with me. I am leaving. She's like, first of all, are you sure you can't take them? And I was like, I have to, I cannot. I was like, but one is a pit mix and one's a Chihuahua. They're both going to get euthanized the minute I take them anywhere. And they were like, you're right. And she was like, when do you need them gone by? And I was like, today. I was like, or tomorrow. Like, I need them gone. And she was like, okay, I can go get them now. And I was like, you just have to promise me that you will never, if my husband contacts you, you don't ever let him touch those animals because he will kill them. Please understand me. He will kill them. And she was like, I don't know what's going on here. I was like, please just listen to me. I was like, I need you to understand that if he ever calls you, if a man named Carl ever calls you and he wants these dogs, please do not let him have them. He will kill them. And she was like, all right, I'm on my way. And I was like, wait, you have the rescue, right? And I was like, you have the thrift store. And she was like, yeah. I was like, do you need stuff for the thrift store? She's like, well, we always need stuff for the thrift store. I was like, if you bring a truck, you can have my house. And she was like, what? And I was like, you can have everything in my house. I was like, I don't care what, you can have everything. I was like, we have TVs, we have couches, we have artwork, you can have it all. And you can have every single thing because I don't want any of it. I can't take any of it. And I want my dogs to be safe. And if you promise me that my dogs are going to be safe, you can have my house. So in a couple hours, she pulls up in a U-Haul with a couple of people and they start undoing my whole house and take it and put it in a U-Haul. And I was like, okay, so my possessions are gone. I'm going to start packing suitcases. We're going to be okay. And so I start packing my suitcase. I give my kids their suitcase. I say, you need to put clothes in here and things that are very special to your heart, okay? Very special to your heart, and clothes, okay? And so they were packing their suitcases, and one of my boys comes in, and I'm like, I threw in like 2 pairs of shoes and some pants. I'm trying to throw in our documents. I'm trying to figure out what we have because the Attorney General's office had returned to me the documents that they had taken from the house that were me and the kids. So I got my birth certificate back and my social and the kids' birth certificates. So I have it all in there, and I'm like trying to figure out how to pack a few clothes. And my son comes in and says, Mommy, this is so close to my heart and I can't leave it. And it was the biggest toy, you guys. It was the biggest toy. It was like a garage that was like Batman. And I was like, oh, buddy. I was like, can it fit in your suitcase? And he's like, no, Mom. And I was like, okay. So I take all my clothes and I throw them out of the suitcase and I put in this little garage. And I was like, it's fine. I don't need clothes. And so that is what we packed. And we waited to be told when we were leaving.